ساتھ ہے نیک بشر، ساتھ ہے بچوں کا ہے بادشاہ جن و بشر۔ تنگ جینے سے ہوں پاس اپنے بلا لو نانا، اپنی تربت میں نواسے کو چھپا لو نانا، اپنی تربت میں نواسے کو چھپا لو نانا۔ یہ بیان کر کے جو تعویذ سے لپٹے سرور، یوں ہی لی خبر کے تھرائی ذریعے انور۔ آئی تربت سے یہ آواز حبیب داور، تیری غربت کے میں صدقے میرے مظلوم پسر، تیری غربت کے میں صدقے میرے مظلوم پسر۔ کوئی سمجھانا میری گود کا پالا تجھ کو، ہائے یادان مدینے سے نکالا مجھ کو، ہائے یادان مدینے سے نکالا تجھ کو۔ اے میرے گیسوؤں والے میرے صابر شبیر، میرے بے کس میرے مظلوم مسافر شبیر۔ نہ رہا کوئی تیرا یاور و ناصر شبیر، ہائے گور غریباں کے مجاور شبیر، ہائے گور غریباں کے مجاور شبیر۔ تو جہاں جائے گا پیارے وہیں چلتا ہوں میں، خاک اڑاتا ہوا تربت سے نکلتا ہوں میں، خاک اڑاتا ہوا تربت سے نکلتا ہوں میں۔ کئی دن سے تیری مادر کو نہیں خبر میں چین، آئی تھی شب کو میرے پاس یہ کرتی ہوئی بہن۔ گھر میرا لٹتا ہے فریاد رسول الثقلین، صبح کو اپنا وطن چھوڑ کے جاتا ہے حسین، صبح کو اپنا وطن چھوڑ کے جاتا ہے حسین۔ کہنے آئی ہوں کہ منہ خبر سے موڑوں گی میں، اپنے بچے کو اکیلا تو نہ چھوڑوں گی میں، اپنے بچے کو اکیلا تو نہ چھوڑوں گی میں۔ ماں کی تربت پہ گئے شاہ بچش خون فشاں، اتری محمل سے بیخبر آہو فغا زینب زا، دوڑ کر خبر سے لپٹے جو امام ابرار، ہاتھ زہرا کے لحد سے نکل آئے، ہاتھ زہرا کے لحد سے نکل آئے۔ آئی آواز نہ رو دل کو خلق ہوتا ہے، خبر ہلتی ہے کلیجہ میرا شق ہوتا ہے، خبر ہلتی ہے میرے جا میرا شق ہوتا ہے۔ ہاں بلاؤ میرا عباس دلاور ہے کدھر، وہ فدا ہے میرے بچے پہ میں صدقے اس پر، شکم غیر سے گو ہے وہ میرا ہے پسر، یہ صدا سن کے برادر کو پکارے سرور، یہ صدا سن کے برادر کو پکارے سرور۔ ابھی رہوار کو آگے نہ بڑھاؤ بھائی، یاد فرماتی ہے اماں ادھر آؤ بھائی، یاد فرماتی ہے اماں ادھر آؤ بھائی۔ آکے عباس نے سر رکھ دیا پائین مزار، آئی زہرا کی صدا میں تیری غربت کے نثار، اپنے پیاروں کے برابر میں تجھے کرتی ہوں پیار، دھیان بھائی کی حفاظت کا رہے اے دلدار، دھیان بھائی کی حفاظت کا رہے اے دلدار۔ کوئی غربت میں اسے مار نہ ڈالے بیٹا، میرا شبیر ہے اب تیرے حوالے بیٹا، میرا شبیر ہے اب تیرے حوالے بیٹا۔
Please recite Surah Fatiha for the families of tonight's sponsor, Mr. and Mrs. Javed Sadiq and Mr. and Mrs. Aziz Sadiq. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. As-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah. Salawat. You realize the value of anything when you do not have it, when you're missing it. And the 2020 we were unable to get together for Muharram, but Alhamdulillah and Shukranallah, we are fortunate enough this year 2021 we are here to commemorate the Azim Shahadat of Imam Hussain. We are very thankful to Maulana Rizwan Rizvi. He'll be here with us inshallah from now until the 12th of Muharram. And the Silsila Majalis, as was announced earlier, once again will be immediately after Maghrib Salat. So we'll do Jamaat Namaz every day together, and then we'll have the Majlis will start after that. I request all of you to once again please make sure that you're all vaccinated, and if you are, give the information to Brother Vilayat Muswi. He's gathering all the those who are vaccinated, their information. And of course, please make sure you are masked and make sure you practice everything that you can to keep yourself and everybody else safe. It's very, very important to, especially now with the new variant propping up, we have to take extra precautions to protect ourselves, our families, and also the community at large. An announcement on Saturday, which is the August, I think, what that was Saturday, it's the 9th, August 12th or something like. What day is Saturday? A date? Anyway, this coming Saturday, at immediately after Zohar Namaz at Astana Zahra, there's a majlis sponsored by Mr. 14th, right? Huh? Okay, yeah, Saturday the 14th of August. There's a majlis sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Jafar Naqvi at Astana Zahra. So you're all requested to be there. It'll be after Zohar Salat, inshallah, on Saturday. And then in the evening, we'll get back here at with Maghrib. With a loud salawat, let's welcome Maulana Rizwan to the member, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is the inaugural of the new member, inshallah, with Maulana Rizwan.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وعليك عظمهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها أربعة حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات بجمع. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today is the first majlis of this series of majalis of the year 1443 of Muharram al-Haram. And first of all, we'd like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having given us one more opportunity to commemorate and pay tributes to the greatest sacrifice in the history of mankind, and to relive in commemoration the martyrdom and the shahada of Sayyid al-Shuhada along with his companions, and with the qawl and the address and the words of great scholars that it is month of Muharram and Safar that has kept Islam alive. And if it wasn't for these Ayyam-e-Aza and our commemorations and our link to Karbala, we would have ceased to exist, especially the followers of Maktab Ahlul Bayt. In riwayat which address this issue, that we survived and we lived and our existence depends on Karbala. And the words of the riwayat are not in my head right now, but that's the mafhum of the riwayat, which says that it is due to Karbala that we have existed, otherwise we would not have existed. So someone might ask a question that other nations do not commemorate Ashura. They do not follow Imam Hussein. They have survived. They have lived. They have existed all these years. Why is it the riwayat is telling us that if it wasn't for these ayyam, we would not have survived or existed? Maybe the ishara is towards the fact that we were in minority. From the very beginning of the religion of Islam, when it came in Arabia, it was in minority because there were religions that existed already, and it was posing a threat to them, and they posed a threat to Islam as well. And similarly, after the wafat of the noble Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the existential threat was to the followers of Amirul Mu'mineen. The division that began, and because of which the life of Amirul Mu'mineen was at stake. The house in which Imam was attacked. So therefore, the persecution began from the very beginning. And that continued. And if it wasn't for this event of Karbala, that brought a sense of unity. And even today, when we find that unfortunately we have divided ourselves into many divisions within our own madhab, many segments and divisions that unfortunately exist, one thing that brings us together is Ayyam-e-Aza and Muharram al-Haram. Someone might not agree with you with the way you commemorate certain things, you celebrate certain things, you go about business with certain things, with your cultural values, your customs. But when it comes to Muharram al-Haram and the commemoration of Karbala, they all come to this Farshaza. And that's the beauty of it. That Imam Hussein becomes that means of unification and making us unified and bringing that unity in all of our different walks of life. That's the beauty. If that is not a living mu'jiza, then what is? So inshallah tonight will be just a tamheed, as it is the custom. And I recited this ayat, which I usually do on the first day of Muharram al-Haram, from Surah Tawbah, ayat number 36. But inshallah, towards the middle, I will explain the topic that I have for you in these Ayyam-e-Azab, which is sort of related to the tamheed that I just presented. That how Islam went through different phases. So the role of imams in revival of religion. Naqsh A'imma dar Ahyaye Deen is inshallah going to be our discussions pertaining to this topic in the upcoming nights, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And I'll elaborate towards the middle of the discussion before going towards the Masaib as to what do I mean by the role of A'imma as far as the revival of madhab and deen and religion and Islam is concerned. But very briefly about this ayat from Surah Tawbah, number 36, which says, Inna iddata shuhuri indallah ithna ashara shahran. Indeed, there are 12 months in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fi kitabillah, as mentioned in his book, Yawma khalaqa as-samawati wal ard, from the time he created the heavens and the earth. Fihim arba'atun hurum. Amongst these 12 months, 4 are muhtaram. Hurum means haram. Haram here refers to ihtaram, that those which have respect. وَلَا تَظْلَمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not suppress yourselves or do injustice to yourselves, especially in these months. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala singling out these 4 months? And what are those 4 months? The concept of 12, which is being mentioned over here, and how does the concept of month and the lunar calendar that we believe in affect us? And there's much debate on this lunar calendar, which I'm sure we debate over in the beginning of the month of Ramadan, to an extent in the beginning of Muharram as well, because we want to make sure we're aligned as far as the day of Ashur is concerned, but more so in the beginning of Ramadan and Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Fitr. With that said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts the 12 months, we find that the word 12 is sacred. There are numerous mentions of the word 12 in Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the tribal leaders of Banu Israel, He says, Ithnata ashara asbatan, 12 leaders and the tribal leaders of Bani Israel. And then he asked Hazrat Musa ﷺ to strike his asa, فَانْفَجَرَتْ مِنْهُ إِثْنَةَ عَشَرَ عَيْنًا. فَانْبَجَسَتْ also and فَانْفَجَرَتْ, both ayat have appeared in Quran. That it springs out of it how many? 12 more springs, or 12 more, rivers and water and streams of water. So the word 12 is there. Does that mean madhab tashayyu is upon haqq when they believe in 12 imams? Our scholars said, don't use these sort of dalail and proofs to prove the 12 imams. We don't have to. Because if you go down that road, then those who believe in 6 imams, they'll start proving by saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala khalaqa al-arda fi sittati ayyam, that Allah has created the earth in 6 days. So that means 6 is the righteous, and therefore 6 imamis would be the righteous as far as their claim is concerned. So we don't need to do that. This is something which is, as far as the 12 is concerned, yes, it is a sacred number which is used in Quran very often. And then the 4 which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to as muhtaram, respected months. Why are they respected? What is the reason behind it? Does that mean other months are not respected? The 4 months, first of all, are 3 on the trot: Dhul Qada, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram. And 1 is Rajab al-Murajjab. These are the 4 months which are muhtaram. Extra bit of respect for these months. Why? What's going on in these months that is not happening in other months? And we thought out of all the months, Sayyid al-Shuhur is month of Ramadan. We thought that was the leader and the master of all the months. And why is it called Shahr in Arabic? The word month in Arabic is Shahr. Why is it called Shahr? Urdu में हम कहते हैं महीना, फारसी में कहते हैं माह, और अरबी में कहते हैं शहर. English में we say month. Why the word shahr is being used for month? Because people refer to this month often. This month I'm doing this. This is the day that I'm doing this. 14, there's a majlis going on. 19, there's the day of Ashur. Month of Muharram is starting then. Month of Safar is beginning then. Because of shuhurat, being famous, or the concept of something between which is known, the word shahr is used for the word month in Arabic. That's one of the reasons why ulama have mentioned the word shahr is used for shuhurat. Now coming back to the point, the reason behind why these 4 months are sacred. I want to use the word sacred rather than respected. They're sacred. Why are they sacred? That even in the time of Jahiliyyah, because these months, as Quran says, يَوْمَ خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ Inna iddat ash-shuhur inda Allah, in the sight of Allah, these 12 months have always existed from the time He created the heavens and the earth. So that means before Islam, 12 months were there. So what's the concept of being sacred? He said even in the time of Jahiliyyah, these months were considered to be sacred to the extent that because of many wars that were taking place, they would come to a halt in these months. You remember, if you read the history of Arabs, long-standing wars that would take place over years and years. It will take them months to travel to a certain place and then engage into war for God knows how many years. But when they were engaged into wars for many, many years, these months would provide a breather for them. Especially to the families of those warriors, people who are attending these battles. That these 4 months, there's no war. There's no fighting, there's no battle. Unless, of course, someone attacks you, then of course you're going to go ahead and defend yourself. But you should not fight in these months. It's forbidden upon you, and if you did aggression towards someone, that if you end up taking someone's life, the indemnity, blood money will be doubled as a penalty for you. So that's how these months are sacred. Another reason could be why you see, look at Dhul Qada, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram. Nowadays, we haven't been able to perform the manasik of Hajj for the past couple of years. Inshallah, hopefully, as things get better with Corona, hopefully next year things will ease out and we'll be able to once again visit Baytullah al-Haram. So you go to Hajj. Usually when we go to Hajj, we only go for like 15 days. We fly out in the month of Zil Hijj. We come back, by the 13th and 14th of Zil Hijj. But even in certain parts of the world today, people leave in the month of Dhul Qada. They stay there until the month of Zil Hijjah, and then they come back in the month of Muharram. Certain places you have to go for 40 days or even more. And back in the day, people would go for longer period. So when people are traveling to perform the duties of Hajj, they want to feel secure and safe. They wouldn't want to be on the path, be looted by these bandits that might be waiting for them. So this ayat, and similarly from the time of Jahiliyyat, it made forbidden upon them to attack anyone, to steal anything from them, And none of those things were allowed. And people respected it. They let these people go by, especially when it was these months. So people could easily travel and perform the manasik of Hajj and then come back home by the month of Muharram al-Haram. Therefore, these 3 months would be on the trot, considered to be sacred. And then, of course, month Muharram, Rajab al-Murajjab. But of course, when we look at the months in the Islamic calendar, that famous riwayat, I'm sure I have recited here before. Can't remember, it's been a while since I've spoken here live. So nothing wrong in sharing that riwayat with you. That at the event of Ghadir, which of course, 18th of Dhul Hijjah, not too long ago, we celebrated Eid al-Ghadir. And Rasulullah, when he announced the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, there was a reaction right after Rasulullah announced it. The reaction by this man who stood up, questioned Rasulullah, saying that what you have announced, is it from you or is it from Allah? Now realizing that Rasulullah is someone, ma yantiqu anil hawa, in huwa illa wahyun yuha. Harith ibn Nu'man Fahri was the name of the person. He said, oh Rasulullah, you asked us to pray, we prayed. You asked us to give zakat, we gave zakat. You asked us to go to jihad, we did so. We did all that you had asked us. It wasn't enough that now you're going to impose upon us the wilayat of your brother, your son-in-law. Is it from you or is it from Allah? But Rasulullah responded that nothing that I do is from me. Everything I say is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything I do is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All my words are the words of Allah. All my actions are the actions of Allah. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He does not say anything out of his own whim. It is what we have given him as a wahi. And as far as the actions are concerned, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You weren't throwing the pebbles, O Prophet, it was Allah. You were just being used as the tool for the work that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants is to be done. So Rasulullah's actions and words are the words of Allah and the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Rasul says, Man kuntu mawlahu fa'adha aliyun mu'la, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking him to say that. The mansab of wilayat which is being given to Ali is through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Rasulullah raises Ali in his arms to lift him to show people that no other Ali but this Ali, so that nobody confuses another person as Ali. This is the Ali that I'm lifting with my hands. That is also the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now with that said, this person still raised a question. Is it from you or is it from Allah? Rasulullah said it is from me. He said, if it's from you, then I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send azab on me right this moment. And he was referencing, because similar incident had taken place, there's a mention of it in Surah Anfal, where Ahl Kitab had done the same thing. Said to Rasulullah, if this is from you, then may Allah send upon Allah send upon us azab in the form of stones. Allah did not send any azab. He said, because we won't send any azab as long as Rasul Rahmat is amongst you. He is Rahmatan lil Alameen. His wujud amongst you is going to go ahead and postpone this azab from you. This Nu'man was thinking the same thing would happen over here. But there was an exception to the rule. He said, no, now the matter is regarding Ali ibn Abi Talib. So azab will come. Sa'ala sa'ilun bi'adhabin waqi. When a person asked about the azab to come down, we fulfilled that and we sent azab upon him. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that was one reaction. That wasn't what I was going toward. The second reaction was when Rasulullah returned back to Medina. When he came back to Medina, this Arabi, Salman Farsi says that this Arabi came while we were sitting with Rasulullah. He came and he asked Rasulullah some questions, and then he threw this question. He said, Rasulullah, you appointed Ali as your successor. Is it from you or is it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now, there was a difference between the tone of questioning. When you ask a question critiquing someone, criticizing someone, the response is how it was given to Harith. But when you ask a question merely to understand and learn something, then you got to respond differently. Kind of like when Mansur al-Dawaniqi asked our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. First he called upon sixth Imam and made him wait outside the door. When Imam showed up, he made him wait to, show disrespect to Imam. Imam kept on waiting, and then he said, yes, let him in. And when Imam walked in, there was a bug, a fly bugging Mansur. And he was, it was buzzing around his nose and his ears, and he was just trying to brush it off, shun it away. And then out of ignorance and arrogance, as Imam was walking in, he said what? لِمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ الضَّبَابَ. Why did Allah create this fly? What's the purpose? It does nothing but to buzz around and bug people. Now there was a reason. If he had asked a question from the aspect of learning something, then Imam would have opened up all the answers for him as the reason behind this small creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The benefits of it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. Because Allah has not created anything abasa. Everything has a purpose. Because Amirul Mu'mineen talks about even the creation of the smallest of the insects, such as ants, in his book Nahjul Balagha. So Imam would have explained to him. But the question was out of arrogance. Why Allah created? Questioning the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam responded in the same exact way that he had asked the question. لِيُذِلَّ بِهِ الْجَبَابِرَةِ. You ask why Allah created the fly and the bugs? So that He may show disgrace to the tyrants, misle you, just like yourself. To disgrace the tyrants like yourself who thinks that he has all the power in the world, but a little fly can go ahead and bug you so much that you're helpless and you can't do anything in front of the power and the might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Harith's question was similar to this. But this Arabi is not asking in the same tone. He's asking to learn something. And when he asked in this way, Rasulullah then gave an elaborated answer. Rasulullah could have answered very easily. That yes, I appointed Ali because of the izn of Allah, because of the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he went in detail. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not created anything or not sent down a book except that He created Sayyad. Sayyad in the meanings of leader. Ma khalaq Allahu shay'an wa la anzala al-kitab illa ja'ala lahu sayyadan. That Allah did not create anything nor sent any book except He created a leader, a master, a Sayyid for that book. Now the word Sayyid here is being used as Sardar, master, leader. And then Rasulullah went by saying, فَالْقُرْآنُ سَيَّدُ الْكُتُبِ الْمُنزِلَةِ. Quran is the Sayyid of all the revealed books. All the books that Allah has revealed, Quran is what? The Sayyidul Kutubul Munzila. He said, Ramadan Sayyidul Shuhur. Month of Ramadan is the leader of all the months. Wal Firdaus Sayyidul Jinan. Firdaus is the leader and top of all of the paradises that exist. Laylatul Qadr Sayyidatul Layali. The night of Qadr is the night which is superior to all the nights. He said, Jibrail Sayyidul Malaika. Jibrail is Sayyidul Malaika. He's the leader of all the Malaika. Ana Sayyidul Mursaleen. I am the leader of all the messengers that have been sent. Wa Ali Sayyidul Awsiya. Ali is the leader of all the Awsiya and all the wasi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْحَسَنِ وَالْحُسَيْنِ سَيَّدَا شَبَابِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. Hasanain are the leaders of the youth of paradise. وَفَاطِمَةَ سَيَّدَةُ نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Fatima is the Sayyida of all the women of the world. Look at the explanation that Rasulullah is going to. A person has asked a very simple question. Rasulullah, did you appoint Ali or was it from the command of Allah? Why go in this elaborative answer? Rasulullah goes one by one showing that who's the leader for everything. As far as the paradise is concerned, as far as the books are concerned, as far as the months are concerned, as far as the days are concerned, as far as the mursaleen are concerned, malaika are concerned. These are the suyud. These are the ones who are the leaders. And then up until this point, everything is making sense. But then Rasulullah paused and he says something which is even further, mind-boggling. He goes to the extent by saying, لِكُلِّ إِمْرَئٍ فِي عَمَلِهِ سَيَّدٌ. For every man, for every woman, as far as their actions are concerned, there's an action which is on top of all the actions. Hubbi wa hubbu Ali ibn Abi Talib Sayyidul Amal. My love and the love of Ali ibn Abi Talib is the Sayyid of all the Amal that you could ever perform. Salawat Biji Muhammad wa Muhammad. So from here you understand the thing that I wanted to derive from it was the Sayyid al-Shuhur. But now that the topic is taking a turn to this direction, I said this in the speech that I gave on Ghadir a couple of weeks ago, worth repeating over here if you didn't hear it, that of course, you always hear this in regards to Ghadir, that people raise questions. That yeah, we believe in the event of Ghadir because there were 110 ashab who narrated the event. So the hadith is bit tawatur. There's no doubt about the hadith of Ghadir. No doubt about what Rasulullah said. No doubt about where it took place and how it took place and how many people were there. Different versions, thousands of people were there. And all those details, everybody agrees. Books of Ahl Sunnah, and of course our books, are filled with this hadith. Nobody doubts as far as hadith Ghadir is concerned. But what do these Sunni scholars doubt over? The word Mawla. They say the word Mawla, yes, Rasulullah did say, Man kuntu Mawla fahada aliyun Mawla. There's no doubt about that. But Rasulullah did not mean to go ahead and say that Ali is going to be my successor. He never appointed. And that's where we stand today, right? That if that was agreed upon, then after the wafat of Rasulullah, who would have been the successor? Amirul Mu'mineen. Some people believed in Amirul Mu'mineen to be the truthful successor, so they followed him. Others did not and rejected it, and they followed the Khilafat. So that's where we stand today. After 14 centuries, 1400 years later, we're still stuck at the same junction. We don't have a response to that because they don't believe the Rasulullah when he said, Man kuntu Mawla fahada aliyun Mawla, that the word Mawla means what? Master or leader or one who's the successor. Although Rasulullah had made sure that he explained everything clearly by saying, Alastu awla bikum min anfusikum. Am I not superior to you than your own nufus? Everybody responded by saying, yes, you are. And only then Rasulullah announced, Man kuntu Mawla fa'ada alin Mawla. But none of these proofs still prove anything to them. They still remain firm that the word Mawla has different meanings. Even the word Mawla is referred to in Arabic as the ghulam. So you say, Qambar, Mawla of Amirul Mu'mineen. Qambar is the Mawla of Amirul Mu'mineen. Means what? Is he the master of Amirul Mu'mineen? No, he's the ghulam of Amirul Mu'mineen. So the word Mawla has various meanings, and this word Mawla also does not mean leader. There was a story that I narrated, that there was a scholar who lived in Zahedan, the eastern province of Iran. And of course, in Zahedan, there's a very large Sunni population over there. So one day I had invited one of my Ahl Sunnah friends, who was a scholar as well. He came over, we had a discussion, a fruitful discussion, healthy discussion. We talked about Ghadir and the incident of Ghadir Khum. We went about the discussion. I gave him one proof after another. that are mentioned in our books regarding the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he rejected every single one of them. Of course, they're not just sitting there without any of their own solid proofs. They have their own proofs against it. So he kept on rejecting everything that I threw at him, to the extent that we could not come to any agreement, as we have not after 14 centuries. It was time for him to leave. He had come from a long distance. So he got up. He said, inshallah, I'll see you next time. He left. His house was about 2 hours away. When he was almost halfway to his house or close to his house, I called him. He said, I called him and I said to him, oh, my friend, can you please come back? There's something very important that I need to tell you. He said, I just left and I'm almost home. Imagine, from Baitul Qayem, you went to Mahfil Shah Khurasan and you left and you're almost close to Mahfil Shah Khurasan. And then someone called you, can you please come back to Baitul Qayem? For example, if I was residing here in Mahfil Shah Khurasan, I was traveling to Mahfil and Dr. Saab says, Maulana, we need you back. And I'm almost near, exit 71 it is, I believe, of Leonia, whatever. And just before the George Washington, he said, no, Maulana, can you come back? I said, I'm almost here at the Mahfil. He said, no, but we need you over here. So this man said, I'm almost, home. I'll come back another time. What is it? Can't you tell me over the phone? He said, no, you have to be here in person for me to tell you this thing. Because of the love, because of the friendship they had, this man said, all right, I'm coming back. This better be good. He drives all the way back, comes home, knocks on the door. This friend of his opens the door, hugs him, and he says, I wanted to tell you that I really like you. He got mad, furious, enraged. He said, this is what you drove me all the way back here for? You could have said this to me on the phone, that you like me. And everybody knows that you like me. Who here doesn't know that you don't like me? You drove me back all the way. I was almost about to reach home after having driven here for 2 hours. And he was really mad. He was really enraged and furious. He said, how could you do such a thing? This is what you do as far as the friendship is concerned? He said, I'll let you say whatever you want to say. But pause for a second. Think about it. I called you back from an hour away just to tell you that I am your friend and I like you, and you're getting mad at me. Rasulullah waited for 3 days in the plains of Ghadir, calling back people who had already made their way to Medina, come back after having traveled all this distance from Mecca, going back home after having performed that difficult task of Hajj, waited for those people who were still making their way to Ghadir, stopped in the middle of nowhere when the sun is beating down on them 3 days in a row, and just to tell the public that Ali is my friend. You really think that makes sense? He said all the proofs that I had given him were on one side. This was the biggest proof for him, and he believed in the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. So that's as far as the wilayat of Amir. It's very simple. Sometimes the solid proofs from Quran and Hadith will not make sense to people, and sometimes you have to awaken their conscience. And that's what the ravish of Anbiya and Awliya was. I don't know where I was as far as my discussion is concerned, but I wanted to today very briefly also touch upon the topic that I have for you, inshallah, in these upcoming nights. As I mentioned, I want to talk about the role of A'immah in the revival of religion. And the reason I chose this, inshallah, I'll speak about whatever I had tomorrow. And the reason I chose this, I think it is important for us to realize that this madhab that has come to us, the struggles, the difficulties, the pains our ma'asumeen had to go through to keep this madhab intact. And the biggest example of that is the shahadat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Imam Hussain is someone who's Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussain. Rasulullah said this about him. You could easily be the star of your house if you are brought up in a household where which is unknown. Usually people who become famous, this did not come from a very famous family. This person studied harder, came into this field, and became was at the top of his skills, and that's why this person is well known. Look at all these people in the history. As far as those who discovered something, you don't really find them to be coming from a very, famous family or background. So it's easy to have your name and to be known when you come from a family which is known. So you have a royal family. In the royal family, everybody's, even the newborn who's only a few weeks old, everybody knows the name of the newborn. Everybody knows, what they're wearing, public knowledge. But the fact of the matter is that Imam Hussein is coming from a family where everyone is at the peak of their own, limitation. Rasulullah is Sayyidul Anbiya. He's already a shining star in the household. Amir al-Mu'mineen is at the peak of his imamat and his wilayat and all the other attributes that are associated with Maulaya Muttaqiyan. Janab Sayyida is also at the peak of her own ismat and taharat. Imam Hassan is at the peak of his own ismat and taharat. To be able to make your name in the house where all of them are shining stars is indeed a real skill. For Rasulullah to say regarding Imam Hussein, Innal Hussein Misbahul Huda, amongst all the shining stars is a big deal. Therefore, it speaks volumes about the high caliber of Imam Hussein himself. Someone who's Husainun minni wa ana min Hussein, someone who's Innal Hussein Misbahul Huda, someone for whom it says, Man ahabba Husainan ahabba Allah, whoever loves Hussein loves Allah, and all the other ahadith that are existing regarding Imam Hussein. And who here is unaware of Imam Hussein's highest character? But then that highest character is sacrificing himself for something. Now just imagine the worth of that something for which Imam Hussein is giving his life. If a person like me gives his life for something, ordinary person, people won't really mind. People won't really pay attention. But someone of Imam Hussein's caliber goes out and sacrifices himself for something, that something is worth studying. That something is worth preserving. That something is worth following. And that's this madhab that Imam Hussein has left for us. It is his blood that irrigated the drying land, which was drying up the tree which Rasulullah had planted. And that is the reason I chose this topic, so that we can understand in depth the criteria, the things that Ma'sumin went through in order to revive this religion. The struggles, so that maybe today, when we follow this deen, we follow it not only as taking it for granted that we were born in a family, but also taking responsibility that will be held accountable for tawheen. If there's anything that is going against this deen, we did not stand up to defend it. Imam Hussein, before embarking on this journey, Imam made sure that he was walking into the right place. A lot of people raise question. People were trying to stop Imam Hussein. Oh Hussein, tum kyun ja rahe ho? Kya maqsad hai tumhare jaane ka? Hussein, mat jao. जैसे दूसरों ने बैत कर लिए तुम भी बैत कर लो. कुछ ने तो यहाँ तक कहा कि फितना मत करो. अल्लाह अकबर. कुछ अलबत्ता वेल विशर्स थे कि जिन्होंने इमाम हुसैन को ये मशवरा दिया कि ना जाइए, कहीं और चले जाइए, जिनमें उम्मे सलमा मौजूद हैं, जिनमें और दीगर घर के अफराद हैं कि जिन्होंने हज़रत अब्दुल्ला हैं, मोहम्मद हनफिया हैं, जिन्होंने ये मशवरे दिए. लेकिन इमाम हुसैन ने हर एक को वही जवाब दिया. रसूलुल्लाह ने इस शहादत के बारे में पहले से ऐलान कर दिया है. आज नहीं तो कल इसको होना है, और यही मकसद है मेरी हयात का. इमाम के वो अल्फाज आपके जहन में मौजूद हैं, लेकिन इमाम ने उसके बावजूद इत्माम हुज्जत के लिए किसी को पहले से रवाना कर दिया. اور وہ شخصیت تھی مسلم ابن عقیل کی۔ میں چاہتا تھا کہ ڈیٹیل سے آپ کے سامنے حضرت مسلم کے مصائب پڑھوں، لیکن دامن وقت میں گنجائش نہیں۔ امام حسین کا یہ سفیر 15 رمضان المبارک کو کوفے کا رخ کرتا ہے، چونکہ امام کو کوفے سے کئی خطوط موصول ہوئے تھے۔ امام چاہتے تھے ان خطوط کی ویریفائی کرنا چاہتے تھے کہ ان میں صداقت ہے، یہ صرف اور صرف زبانی جمع خرچ نہیں ہے، بلکہ جو لوگ یہ کہہ رہے ہیں وہ اپنی بات کے اوپر ثابت قدم ہیں۔ لہٰذا مسلم ابن عقیل کو بھیجا اور یہ الفاظ کہہ کے بھیجا کہ وہ ثقہ ہیں، میرے سب سے زیادہ اعتماد مسلم کے اوپر ہے، جس پہ امام کو وہ اعتماد ہو، جس کو امام ثقہ کہہ رہے ہوں اس شخص کا کیا کیلیبر ہوگا۔ مسلم ابن عقیل پہنچتے ہیں شہر کوفہ میں، ہانی ابن عروہ سے ملتے ہیں، حتیٰ اس وقت مختار بھی موجود تھے۔ ان لوگوں کے ساتھ مسلم ابن عقیل کی وہ کیمپین چلتی ہے جس میں لوگ مسلم کے آس پاس جمع ہو جاتے ہیں، یہاں تک کہ 18,000 لوگ مسلم کے ساتھ جمع ہو جاتے ہیں۔ حضرت مسلم اسی وقت ایک خط لکھتے ہیں امام حسین کو اور کہتے ہیں کہ دیر نہ کیجیے گا، جیسے ہی یہ خط موصول ہو فوراً کوفے کا رخ کیجیے گا، جو آپ کو باتیں موصول ہوئی تھیں ان میں صداقت ہے، یہ لوگ سب کے سب آپ کے ساتھ ہیں۔ کچھ میں لکھا گیا 18,000 لوگ ساتھ ہیں، کہا تمام کوفہ آپ کے ساتھ ہے۔ بس امام کو یہ خط ملنا تھا، مسلم کی طرف سے یہ توثیق آ گئی تھی، امام نے اپنے سفر کو شروع کر دیا۔ ادھر امام کا سفر جاری تھا، ادھر مسلم کے اوپر حالات تبدیل ہونا شروع ہو گئے۔ ابن زیاد کو بھیجا گیا، جیسے تیسے کوفے کے حالات تبدیل ہونا شروع ہوئے، لوگوں نے بھیجا، ابن سعد اس طرح کے لوگوں نے کس طریقے سے کیا بھیجا، ابن زیاد نے لوگوں کو آمادہ کیا، جاؤ خواتین سے ان کو جا کے ڈراؤ، ان سے کہو تمہارے شوہروں کو قتل کر دیا جائے گا، جا کے بہنوں کو ڈراؤ کہ تمہارے بھائیوں کو قتل کر دیا جائے گا، جا کے بچوں کو ڈراؤ تمہارے والدین کو قتل کر دیا جائے گا۔ ان کو بلا لیا گیا، ان سے ان کی تلواریں چھین لی گئیں، بلکہ تلواروں کے عوض ان کو پیسہ دیا گیا۔ ہر شخص نے اس طریقے سے عمل کیا، یہاں تک کہ ملتا ہے کہ حضرت مسلم جب نماز پڑھ رہے تھے تو کچھ لوگ 30 کے قریب کچھ لوگ ان کے پیچھے موجود تھے، لیکن جب وہاں فارغ ہوتے ہیں تو ایک دفعہ اس انجان شہر میں مسلم ابن عقیل مڑ کے دیکھتے ہیں تو کوئی ان کے ساتھ نہیں کھڑا تھا۔ عجب اجنبیت ہوگی، عجب مشکل کا وقت آیا پڑا ہوگا، مسلم کو اپنی فکر نہیں ہے بلکہ امام حسین کی فکر ہے کہ جن کو خط لکھ چکے ہیں کہ فوراً کوفے کا رخ کیجئے۔ بس وہ وقت آتا ہے، مسلم رات کی تاریکی میں اس شہر میں گھوم رہے ہیں، ایک درخت کے پاس آ کے بیٹھ جاتے ہیں۔ اس کے سامنے ایک گھر تھا، ایک خاتون نکلتی ہیں، کہتی ہیں اپنے گھر کا رخ کرو، میرے گھر کے سامنے کیوں بیٹھے ہو، شریفوں کا گھر ہے، مسلم بیٹھے رہتے ہیں۔ وہ عورت پھر آتی ہے، کہتی ہے تم کون ہو، تمہارا کوئی گھر نہیں ہے کیا؟ مسلم نے اپنے ایک آہ کھینچی، ایک دفعہ کہا ہوگا گھر، آشیانہ، ارے میں اپنے گھر سے بہت دور ہوں۔ کہا تم کون ہو، پانی ملے گا؟ مسلم نے پانی کا تقاضا کیا، اس عورت نے پانی دیا، پوچھا تم ہو کون؟ بتایا میں مسلم ابن عقیل ہوں، میں حسین کا سفیر ہوں۔ بس یہ سننا تھا۔ طوعا نامی خاتون نے کہا آپ آئیے، میرا گھر حاضر ہے آپ کے لیے، یہ گھرانہ اہل بیت کے لیے حاضر ہے۔ بس مسلم ابن عقیل نے وہاں پہ پناہ لی، رات بھر عبادت میں گزاری، لیکن اس گھر میں ایک خائن تھا جس نے جا کے ابن زیاد کو بتا دیا کہ جس مسلم کا تم پیچھا کر رہے ہو وہ میرے ہی گھر میں چھپا ہوا ہے۔ محمد ابن اشعث کے ساتھ کچھ سوار آتے ہیں، اس گھر کے اوپر گھر کے آنر اور رسپیکٹ کو پامال کرنا چاہتے ہیں، لیکن مسلم ابن عقیل نہیں چاہتے کہ اس بی بی کا پردہ پامال ہو۔ میں کہوں گا مسلم کتنا خیال ہے اس اجنبی عورت کا کہ اس کے پردے کا تم نے لحاظ کیا۔ آؤ کربلا میں دیکھو، روز عاشور جب حسین شہید کر دیے گئے، بیویاں کس طریقے سے در بدر ہیں، ایک خیمے سے دوسرے خیمے میں جاتی ہیں، بچیاں پوچھتی ہیں پھوپھی اماں باہر کیسے نکلے، سر پہ چادر نہیں ہے۔ الا لعنت اللہ القوم الظالمین وسیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون ان للہ و انا الیہ راجعون۔ بار اللہ ہماری سے بات قبول فرما، ہم گناہ گار ہیں، ہمارے گناہوں سے درگزر فرما، ہمیں اہل بیت علیہ السلام کے نقش قدم چلنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمیں ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، امام کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما، ان کے آوان انصار میں شمار کر، ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔ ماتم حسین۔
کربلا 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 ہے کربلا کربلا ہے کربلا، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، 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 روزہ شبیر پر دوں گا دعا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، ہے جہاں گنج شہیدہ ہے جہاں نہر فرات، ہے جہاں گنج شہیدہ ہے جہاں نہر فرات، جس جگہ سید میرا پیاسا رہا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، جس جگہ عباس کے بازو قلم ہو کر گرے، جس جگہ عباس کے بازو قلم ہو کر گرے، اس جگہ میں بھی کروں ماتم ذرا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، دل الجھ کر آ گیا برچی میک بر کا جہاں، دل الجھ کر آ گیا برچی میک بر کا جہاں، دل وہاں میں بھی کروں اپنا فدا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے، جل گئے شام غریبا میں جہاں خیمے تمام، جل گئے شام غریبا میں خیمے تمام، جس جگہ ننا سے ایک جھولا جلا لے چل مجھے جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے جانے والے کربلا کے کربلا لے چل مجھے یا حسین
وبركاته.